I'm so glad to be here for two reasons. The first is that Julia said, don't prepare. And I thought, thank fucking God.
That's right.
Sorry to claim the name. Um, and the other, Julia, is I just saw your email saying that you unfortunately have a car problem and can't make it. And that was also like, I was going to ask to hitch a ride with you because I just can't get on the road again. I'm so tired.
Mm.
So it was an invitation also to say, you know what? Maybe that lunch tomorrow is not meant to be. And
Yeah, we were gonna do a lunch tomorrow,
Oh,
Carmen.
cool. Very
And
good.
yeah, but no.
No,
Yeah,
wow.
I was driving home from Chicago. I'm in Pennsylvania. I figure I'll be home in about 4 hours in Virginia. And there's just an incredible storm. Like I hadn't been in a storm like that in a long time. I thought, well, it's a new car and I've got these great tires. I'm just going to keep going. But then I saw one accident right in front of my eyes, and then I saw another accident right in front of my eyes,
mm-mm.
and then I saw this truck almost cause an accident. And then I thought, I should get off the road. This is like too much. Then I hydroplaned and the water shot up. I put on the brakes, which you're not supposed to do. Don't try this at home. I lost control of the car. Everything was fine, but the water shot up right into my exhaust system.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
And anyway, I pulled off the road. I stayed at a hotel. I took the car into a dealership, and they don't have the part until tomorrow. So so this is thanks to the Honda people. Honda, you're so great. Love you. I'm in their little private
This
room.
this podcast is sponsored by Honda.
It's our first sponsor. They don't even know they're a
They don't
sponsor.
even know it, but yay. So Kate, I know you have met Julia before, and I think taken a walk with her, which is like the sort of immersive experience. But I'm Carmen, and my background is completely different from Julia's. So I don't know if you know that. I don't know if
I've been reading about you, Carmen.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, there,
Yeah,
and
I'm
so
so grateful to be with you.
so the contrast between the two of us creates this huge space where people can talk about whatever the hell
Yeah,
I'll bring in the other side here, whatever the hell they want to. So,
good.
and I've just started reading some of your Substack and some of the things you're interested in, but maybe we should just start by letting you introduce yourself however you want to, and sort of what are you interested in these days? What's important? What matters?
Don't forget that you got a Pulitzer Prize. Hello.
Oh, okay. Well, there, yeah, that's worthwhile.
Yeah, I part of a team, so I should say that I was part of the team at the Washington Post that won the Pulitzer Prize for public service for our coverage of the January 6th attack on the US Capitol. Um, and you know what is funny, in quotation marks, a friend of mine who covered the attack, I was outside the Capitol in the mob, and a friend of mine covered the attack inside for Bloomberg. And after our newsroom won the Pulitzer, my friend texted me and he said, "Does this make the PTSD worth it?"
That's not
And
funny. I don't know why I'm
it,
laughing.
it, it is.
It is funny.
It is and it isn't, right?
Yeah.
Because we just normalize this stuff and it really encapsulated like it, that's a career defining moment to be part of a historic story like that, to bear witness to it and be able to tell the world. And at the same time, it was also a cracking open of my own identity and understanding of health and well-being and how do I perpetuate, problems that I think I'm a solution to. And so it wasn't lovely. It was terrible. But I turned it into an opportunity for healing. And so, yeah, I'm a journalist by trade. Really, uh, I've spent 23 years covering authoritarian countries, declining democracies, societies that have a lot of trauma, even if they don't recognize it. And one of those is the United States.
Yes.
So I have spent time in Cuba, Cambodia, Hong Kong, and all of that culminated in my work in the US covering not Trump, but Trumpism.
Right.
And so now I left Daily News about a year ago, and I'm really focusing on writing, researching, teaching, and hopefully healing in some forms
Mm.
the connections between mental health and democracy.
Right. Well, it's that's just a huge portfolio is the word that came into my mind, although it just seems like the wrong word. Is there a why you left daily reporting that you want to share? I mean, you talked about what you hope to do now, you know, to advance yourself beyond daily reporting, but was there something that drove you out of daily reporting?
Yeah, I suffered complex PTSD after the Capitol attack, and that was a culmination of many factors. So, what can be a deeply distressing or stressful event to one person can be traumatic to another. And often what determines that, like how well you move out of this adversity, is determined by how well you were doing the day before it. And I was completely, wow.
Yeah,
So
she's in a
there we go.
special space.
Every once in a while, I just go dark.
That was why that was my experience too. I
Yeah.
just went through this tunnel and it was like, get me out of here. No, so I was completely burned out. Remember 2020, the pandemic, racial justice protests, the election, the insurrection, the inauguration. I was part of a team that shrunk because of reduction in resources and reduction in staff. And so, classic do more with less.
Mhm.
Um, in addition, I come from a family with intergenerational trauma and my own childhood trauma. And so when you experience new adversity, that can wake up the unhealed or even what you thought were healed wounds of the past. And so I realized, and then I didn't even we returned to a newsroom, but we went back to our homes because it was the pandemic pre-vaccines. So totally isolated, not good awareness in the newsroom of really what trauma is. We're very cerebral. We use the vocabulary, but we're not fluent in the language, and the language includes your body and your nervous system and how trauma affects your relationships. And so I was in an environment that didn't understand that, and didn't and exacerbated the PTSD.
Mhm.
And so I really began to reflect on my identity, how I had enmeshed my self-worth and my identity with my career and my profession and my productivity.
That's
And
so easy to do.
so, right?
So easy to do.
Right. And I had chosen a career. I came out of young Kate vibrating with anxiety and hypervigilance. These are survival skills, and I chose a career perfectly suited to that. I could, I thrived on adrenaline. I met deadlines. I could scan for danger in tricky situations. And so I used work essentially to lean into these superpowers, but also to mask this unresolved trauma. And so, with the Capitol attack, it was an aftermath. It was an opportunity. I could either return to my workaholism, which
Was not a good idea, according to the light gods.
exactly, I could return to the workaholism, um, and just kind of be both numbed out and also in a front, fight flight, these kind of two extremes of dysregulation that also, I was also highly functioning. That's made me very effective at my job. Or I could take the time and really work on my healing. And the more I worked on my own healing, the more I recognized that the system I was working in is perpetuating some of the dysfunction that I am concerned about.
Yes.
So the Post offered buyouts December 2023. um, there was enough change and leadership value differences for me to also feel, in addition to my own set of values,
Hmm.
I'm not in a container that reflects them anymore. So
Right.
so I left December 2023.
Wow.
Very well. Again, I'm not sure. Should I say very good? Very cool? No, none of those are really
All of them.
No,
appropriate.
nothing's very good about that. It's good that you
Right.
recognized it and took care of yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know you write a lot about, well, this is what I've gathered that you think a lot about uh, resilience,
Mhm.
the connection between democracy and mental health, which I find really fascinating. Well, I find resilience fascinating too. But my career at CIA was really, among many things, about protecting democracy, although nobody believes us, but whatever. Uh, and so and I worked on societies where you could argue that the people were kind of unwell from a
Mhm.
psychological perspective.
Mhm.
And so let me see, resilience, uh, mental health and democracy, trauma
Mm.
and recovery. What else? What am I missing?
Self-awareness and being able to write.
Yeah, and self-awareness, not just thinking, but feeling.
Hmm.
I
So
think that's what's often
Yes.
missing is
uh,
the body connection, right?
right.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite topics is emotions for us to still be emotional creatures. I deduce means that emotions serve an important evolutionary and biological purpose. And yet our modern societies that we've constructed and the sort of male ordered set
Hmm.
of values that we've imposed on it has tended to mask emotion or lead us to ignore it or consider it kind of a fake signal that if we're strong enough, we can get over. And
It's noise. It's noise.
it's sort of unfortunate. I think it's all wrong-headed.
Uh, it, Carmen, I sorry, two things show up. Is it okay if I address them here, Kate? Two
Yeah.
things. Okay, two things show up. One is listening to Joe Rogan talk with Amanda Knox recently
Hmm.
about her experience, her traumatic experience, and she's like, "That's a phenomenal episode to listen to if you want to think about how trauma affects it and the genders differently and stuff." But one of the things he says is, um, she says to him, "Well, I can't imagine being a man. There's so many things I appreciate about being a woman." He's like, "Of course, you're a woman." Um, but he says, "I love being a man," and she says, "Why? And isn't it hard for you to have emotions and stuff?" And he says, "Why? Because I run the world. Like, 'cause men run the world."
He's honest. He's
And
honest.
he's on this.
Yeah. And so when you said male ordered, I thought like that's just that's just true. That's not like some feminist
No,
complaint.
it's not.
It's just
It's a
No,
true.
simple
it's a,
fact.
it's a point of fact.
It's a
That's
point of
Yes.
fact that almost
So
every institution that we deal with was created and organized by men for men, starting with religion, and all the way to the Federal Reserve Bank or wherever you want to go.
keep going.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
just keep going. And it's not good or bad. It's just a function of how society was organized at the time. Um,
And it stuck around. It stuck around a lot. I mean, even
well,
to the structure of the family and the household,
mhm.
it stuck around a lot.
and
Well,
what and the irony of this is the men that say there's no room for emotions or that does what does that have to do with anything? our systems were built by men. Our systems were built by traumatized men, right?
Of course, because
So,
everyone was traumatized,
I mean,
right?
you have people who were fleeing persecution, had a really scary boat ride, landed in a foreign place, and thought we've got to protect ourselves. And so they tried to eliminate the threats to their safety through killing, displacement, enslavement. And trauma rips away your sense of safety, your sense of control, your dignity. And it is a really dehumanizing force. And so we have people that it's not just emotional. Trauma is a biopsychosocial wound. So it affects your physical, your biology, your psychology, and your relationships. So when you're looking around the world and I need to stay safe, I need to protect my family, I need to claim this land so I don't feel that scared or bad again, even if I won't admit it. Then you build ways of being and policies and practices and economies and CIAs, right? Right? To make sure we never feel as scared or vulnerable as we did before. And the irony of it is that in the building of defenses, it often invites more retaliation and the other magic potion of trauma, which is really not a good thing, is it makes people confuse opportunities for threats. So,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's been shown again and again in
Right.
the cognitive science and cognitive neuroscience literature. Not even like something that's an ambiguous signal could be an opportunity, could be a threat. If you're in a state of like triggered for your
Oh,
trauma, all of a sudden it's a threat. Same signal in a different state is an opportunity.
yeah.
So I want to say a couple of things here, but Julie, I think you said you wanted to say two things,
Yeah.
or two
So
things came to mind. So,
the first one was so juicy. And then the second one that came to mind, let's see if I can recall it. It's not coming to mind now. So if it's important, it'll come back. I got into the juicy first one.
okay. So now, of course,
Oh no, it is coming back.
okay, yay!
When you and I went out for a walk, Kate, you said you don't want to be known as a journalist anymore. You want to be known as this new thing. And you were trying to figure out what the new thing is. And I would love if you're open to talking about that process of figuring out the new thing and
Yeah.
the process of like if that's healing or if that's re-triggering or what you tell to other people who are trying to figure out their new thing. Because there's a lot of people trying to figure out their new thing right now.
So many people. Yeah. So we were walking and I was describing all the things that I am, the multi-hyphenated ways of being. And I think you said, being a journalist that seems outdated doesn't reflect you. And I leaned into it and I said, we did this exercise and I was like, I think I'm a heart forward leader.
Oh yeah, that's what you said.
Yeah. And the more I meditated on it, I am a journalist. I am still a journalist. Like the ethos of journalism and the way I generally approach things with the mentality of I don't have enough information yet.
Mhm.
And I need to gather more information. And so I'm still a journalist, but where I'm grappling with the identity issue is that it's not a just the facts, ma'am, journalist. It's not a, which what is that anyway? But so I feel this is part of my healing process is I feel like an imposter saying that I'm a journalist because I'm not in a newsroom anymore and I write first person with perspective. Um, but then I'm clearly an advocate. I'm a mental health advocate and I'm a advocate of democracy. And so I don't have a title yet. And I think in a society that likes boxes and to organize things, titles are important. And so I'm trying to lean into the uncertainty or lean into the ambiguity of these different spaces that I exist in because it's all of them together that's actually, I think, making me more insightful.
Mm-hmm.
What if you could redefine or reframe journalism for a generation of journalism students, right? Like what would you maybe it's called like blah blah like remember gonzo journalism or whatever? Like
So
maybe
Yeah.
that's a
before you go there, just let me put an indent to that question, which is, how did you come to journalism? Did you come because you love to write, because you love to read, or because you loved the news? You love to like be on top of things, or
Yeah.
just or some other reason.
Yeah. Um, I grew up in a very unpredictable, unsafe home. And just remember thinking, God, I wish somebody would ask me, what are you okay and what do you need? And
yeah.
and um, and so when I got into high school, I my sister was on the school newspaper and I refused to join it while she was there. So then she graduated and then I became the editor-in-chief. But I decided like I will use, and I love to write. I will use my powers to ask other people, how are you and what do you need?
Mm.
And so I really set out to make meaning of my own experience by putting it to use by helping others. And so in college, I studied in Nicaragua, and then after college, in college, I went to Cuba. I was really drawn to countries that had been through ruptures, war,
Me too.
revolution.
Me too.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I mean, this sounds horrible, but everyone says, "Well, have you been to Costa Rica?" And I go, "No." And they go, "Why don't you go?" And I go, "It seems like a very boring country."
They
I
don't
mean,
have a military.
I don't wish it to become unboring, but I much prefer to visit crunchy places.
Why? Why is that for you?
I just think there's more learning. I was going to say it's more interesting, but that sounds sort of self-serving, you know. So what is it that I get when I go there? There's just way more interesting, divergent things to observe and learn from than when I go to a place that is placid and everything's very orderly. So that's I think I always prefer to go to crunchy places.
Well,
Yeah.
you study change, Carmen. I mean, you're interested in change
I
primarily.
never studied change formally, which is an interesting point you've made because does anybody academically or anywhere sort of offer as a course of study the study of change? I mean, I think if you study complex systems or complexity, if you go into that space, you're essentially studying change, why and how
Right.
change happens. But nevertheless, back to
Yeah.
your story, Kate.
You're not off the okay.
Yeah. And then asking questions is a form of control, right?
Yes.
That
Yes, yes. We all know that. All three of us use that, and it's very helpful. You don't want the focus on you to be like, and what about you? Tell me about you. I'm super
yeah.
interested in you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a really helpful uh
It's a safety valve.
safety. Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, so that was the foundation of it's pretty classic. You
But
want you want to make meaning of adversity. You want to help
Right.
other people.
Right.
And I didn't know it, but it's intuitively, inherently post-traumatic growth is what pushed me to journalism.
yeah,
Okay, say post-traumatic
let's
growth.
briefly
Say
talk
more
about what
about
that
that.
is.
Unpack that phrase because it's very interesting to me, but I'm not sure
Yeah.
I know exactly what you mean by it.
So trauma can feel really scary to people because it just feels like a sentence. Like I will be broken forever. I will feel bad. I will feel scared. And I think, some of my greatest joys and deepest wisdom and most beautiful connections come out of the healing and growth of trauma. And so post-traumatic growth is um, to make meaning, to find a deeper sense of humanity, to find a deeper sense of connection with yourself and other people. Um, and because I've learned that when you don't have control over your environment, one of the ways that you can move towards post-traumatic growth is you can control your reaction to your environment. So, in a house as a child living with a mother who had undiagnosed mental illness and untreated trauma, complex trauma of her own, I was dependent on this person for my survival, for my understanding of the world. And so I was constantly working to reconcile realities, and um, I couldn't control the environment that I was in until I was 16, and then I left. So the way I changed my response to the environment was I wrote, I have a best friend since I was 5. We've been friends for 40 years. Our imagination, our play, our laughter is was a transformative power that protected me. Um, so, and these are things that still, like, I Zoom with my best friend Julia. And I don't Zoom, that's a lie, lies. I FaceTime with my best friend Julia,
Different, Julia.
different Julia, every day, sometimes multiple times a day. One, because we know each other so deeply, but two, because we laugh so hard.
Right.
Um, and it's the kind of laughter and appreciation of like being safe and alive and joyful that only comes from having gone through hard things together.
I love to laugh, and when I was the senior leader at CIA, uh, one of the things you would do is you would have a weekly corporate board meeting, which was basically the people that reported to us on the leadership team. And sometimes I would be running it because I was the deputy, and so he would be away. And the meetings were notorious for me just totally cracking up because one of our functions of the meeting was to report to our direct reports, what had happened on the seventh floor, explain some new requirement or whatever. And I just couldn't, predictably, routinely, just saying the stupid bureaucratic thing made me crack up. I couldn't finish it. I mean, I literally was laughing so hard that I could not, uh, I could not finish the sentence. This example I'm going to give you is at a uh, lower level, much earlier in my career, but right
Okay.
after September 11th, or shortly after September 11th, there were all these discussions about how were we going to survive an attack on a similar type attack on the CIA.
Okay.
And so some, I don't know, incredibly brilliant person had come up with an idea that we need to have ways of, see, I'm not going to get through this. We need to have ways of letting other people know that we're buried in the rubble. So I'm telling my team this. And so, like, senior leaders are going to get issued these special types of whistles that we can blow so that people,
Sure.
I swear this is true, so that people can hear that we're in the rubble. And then I looked at my team and I said, well, you'll notice I do not have a whistle. So, I mean, the whole thing was, it's so Kafkaesque
I'm,
over and
I'm
over
sure.
and over again that I mean, I could not deliver that stuff straight. So I clearly lacked the gravitas that you needed to be that kind of leader. So
Also, I mean, the assumptions there that like hearing the whistle is going to make people want to dig you out.
just the whole thing. Well, it also reminded me of the flaws and the continuity of government ideas in case there was a nuclear attack, and a looming
Mhm.
nuclear attack on DC, and everybody, all the senior leadership was supposed to go somewhere, I don't know, west. And the idea, and then I started thinking about it. Okay, so we're all gonna leave our families
And then there's
to
going to be tons of other
to
people who are like,
to
what happened?
to die, and we're all gonna go west. Somehow I don't actually think that's gonna happen.
I've seen
You
that
know,
movie.
what?
I've seen that
Yeah,
movie.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wanted to just mention a couple of things that I had, though I really, just the one thing I wanted to mention when you were talking about how how these mail ordered systems were built by people in trauma.
Yeah.
And that got me to remember something that happened right after 9/11, where I was involved in this project. And I don't know, Julie, if I've ever mentioned this in a Pandas before,
Hmm.
but we were convened, a group of women were convened to specifically talk about the female, just we weren't actually asked to talk about the female perspective on 9/11, but the person who came up with the idea thought, what if we just ask a group of women to comment on the significance of 9/11 and the reasons? And then we'll have this as a diverse kind of input
Mm.
to how we think about it. And so the women were, there were CIA women like me, but there were, I remember we had a high school principal from DC
Interesting.
and someone from the Susan B. Anthony Center up in New York
Hmm.
State, a couple of Arab women who were like translators,
Mhm.
perhaps for the State Department or someplace like that. And the takeaway from that meeting that affected my life has, totally changed how I think about things. Because somehow, organically in the conversation, we realized, oh, what brought those 19 young men to do that?
Yeah.
What, how did they get to that point?
Hmm.
And then I remember one of them going is, where were their mothers? So there's a lot of discussion. Where were their mothers? Were they disconnected from them? Did they tell their mothers? And then sort of the realization among all of us is how humiliated each of those men must have felt, how traumatized. I
Yeah.
think almost every single one of them had lived in the West, mostly Western Europe.
Hmm.
And I know if you read about Muhammad Atta's experience in Germany, he was shamed by
Hmm.
being an Arab in a modern Western country like Germany.
Hmm.
So that's when I realized that, this feeling of humiliation and shame, being embarrassed is just like the little brother or little sister of humiliation, is the most painful emotion we can evoke in another human.
Yeah.
Now, you might take issue with that because trauma, like fear of your life is also a very dangerous emotion. But yeah, and that would be great. I mean, this is I'm just describing what my takeaway was. And on that, from that point on, sort of my whole policy of government of managing and leading people and dealing with people is to at all times avoid embarrassment.
Yeah.
And embarrassment, we embarrass each other so casually, particularly in the workplace with one-upsmanship and this or that, that it's like the basso ostinato of everyone's lives in the workplace is embarrassing each other. And I've tried as much as I can is to withdraw myself from that kind of activity. And
That's,
so I just wanted to offer that.
I mean,
That's beautiful.
it's beautiful and it's right on track. I mean, shame is trauma and shame are, they're in a codependent relationship. And I wish that I knew who said this. I feel bad, but I heard the other day that shame is fear of loss of connection,
Mm.
Yeah, that's
right?
right. That's right.
Yeah. And trauma ruptures connections. And so you're absolutely right. I mean, they're hand in glove. Like when someone has suffered a pain that ruptures the connection with themselves and somebody else, that shame fills the space. And it's this fear that you will be ostracized, that you
Mm.
are out of the tribe. And we're, we're tribal animals, or I don't, people quibble with this, but we are social beings. And so when you suffer a pain that casts you out or makes you feel cast out, again, because trauma changes the way you perceive the world. So it's right. You might not
Right, right.
necessarily, but you might perceive it that way. It's it can start to perpetuate these cycles of harm. And so what I'm hearing you say is you're noticing these cycles and
Hmm.
you work very hard to disrupt them,
Yeah,
which
well, to not be part of that cycle,
to not be
right?
part of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's right on. Look at our president and Elon Musk. Both of them come from um, great childhood adversity. Elon Musk's his brother has said that his dad psychologically tortured them, emotionally tortured them, and that he and his brother both worked very hard to not be ever be in that kind of compromised state. And so Elon has taken that to build walls
Hmm.
and to yeah, to have the ultimate control so that he doesn't feel hurt again. But what a lonely place.
Right, exactly.
You know, that reminds me of the shame conversation and the conversation about, and I can't do anything about the light anymore. I can't even turn it on. It's just not going to go
It's
on.
okay. We can hear you and we can see sort of a
A vague
ghostly
suggestion.
kind of thing.
Ew.
Weird.
Um,
So
so
weird.
a wonderful friend of mine who does or has done trauma work in the State Department, um, trauma healing work in the State Department, says two things that I think are really valuable here. You know that I say one is that when someone's abusive, what they're really trying to do is take the shame that they feel and put it into the other person. They're trying to offload their shame.
Yes,
Hmm.
yes,
So that's such a profound insight. It's like
yes,
that's what's really going on. It's like I am so full of this, I just want to give it to you. And in a way, it's connecting. In a way, it's almost like a way of connecting.
Yep.
And then the other thing that she says that's so profound is that the the way trauma visits us is through our bodies, and the way that we register it is through time, like our whole timeline.
hmm,
So it visits us in a moment in our bodies, regardless of the kind of trauma, even emotional, right? I mean, even emotional abuse, but it sinks into the whole timeline. And both of those things, I just think, okay, I could think about those for days. But I wonder when you said, Kate, at the very beginning of our conversation, and you sort of introduced yourself and you said, you know, I stopped doing, or I left the newsroom when I realized I was perpetuating some of the things. I
Mhm.
wanted to know what you meant like what you meant by that. And do you have a sense of the left perpetuating some of this as well as the right? Because we've talked about Elon Musk and Donald Trump, but I also know from our conversation that you also see the left doing some of the same traumatic stuff. And so I'm just curious if you're open to speaking about that.
Yeah. Well, first of all, humans, left, right, doesn't matter, right? But so the harm that I perpetuated was when I er, 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 I
Wait, what do you mean by
I'm just trying to gather my thoughts.
Okay.
So that was me like slowing down. Um I my window of tolerance for stress became so wide and high. So having grown up in adversity, having worked in newsrooms where adrenaline, speed, stress are the currency and the measure of success, how much stress can you endure and still perform expertly? Um, I normalized such high levels of stress that I expected others to work at the same levels as I was. And I didn't even, because I was also shut down in a lot of ways, um, I didn't even feel the stress always. So when I find achievement is defined by a certain level of productivity, which requires a certain amount of stress, which equates to success in some form, that inherently sends the message to everybody else that they need to be operating on the same level. And um, that's not healthy, right? And I would say people, you have to take care of yourself. I would talk about, take breaks, but my modeling behavior was don't take a break. And 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 it was like more at the Washington Post than any other newsroom I've been in, there was this measure of you're only as good as the last thing you produce.
Mm.
And also, I mean, literally, there's this thing called Chartbeat, this huge screen in the middle of the newsroom that has your metrics, your analytics, how many people are on the website, how many people are on your story, how like per where is it coming from? And so as soon as you publish something, you can log on to Chartbeat and see how well it's doing. And then if it's not doing well, like let's tweet it, let's share it, let's get it out there, and trying to push this thing up. And 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 you could produce this really incredible thoughtful deep dive into like the underlying causes of some of
Right,
our
right,
systemic
right.
dysfunction, but it wouldn't do as well. And so that becomes a measure of success, but then you have to like hurry and do something else to show that you're also contributing. So um my workaholism is was damaging to me and it was damaging to other people, I think. I think I didn't have an embodied empathy or understanding that other people had different limits than me.
Mm.
And that's harmful, you know? Um, and also,
So did you judge them did you sort of judge them as weak if they couldn't? I'm,
I,
I mean, I've done that. I'm sympathetic with that.
yeah, I mean, the other thing is my identity and my value was so enmeshed with my profession that like the highest level is what I expect of myself. And I'm only good if I am essentially perfect in some form. And so I would inherently apply that to other people and feel, this frustration or disappointment if other people weren't meeting it. And it's like that leaves no room for people to be human.
Right, right.
It's not okay. So, I didn't want to spend the next 40 doing that. It's so unkind to myself and to other people. And then also masked, I love joking, I'm funny and the other things I'm realizing, because I was also, a manager, and then a player coach when we had staff reductions and stuff. And I wasn't as aware because I'm so jokey and personable. I wasn't aware that I had power because I thought, well, we're jokey and I'm telling them to take time off. So why don't they take time off? Not recognizing that the power dynamic for many people didn't allow it.
It's
Um,
a very dangerous place, being jokey, because I'm also jokey,
yep.
and it's mostly been a plus.
Yeah.
But nothing is so painful as when I have made a joke and realized that this person didn't think it was funny. In fact, that it
Awful.
was
That's horrible.
embarrassing, that I embarrassed them. I
Awful.
I just want to crawl away and hide. So, as a result, I'm probably not as funny as I used to be, because I'm like, okay, not sure about that one. I'm not going to say it.
Well,
Uh,
but how awesome, right? Like what is a joke is meant as social lubricant to bond,
mhm.
but it's also like performative. It can be control, whatever. So what is the intent of the
Right.
joke?
Yeah.
So yeah. Yeah, and it's, I've really beaten myself up for the ways that I didn't understand that my workaholism and my perfectionism was hurtful. And I'm also trying to hold space like I also was really great and had amazing relationships and inspired people and, have incredible thank you notes that I know weren't coerced by so yeah, we're all the things. I was all the things and I left because I wanted more of the healing things.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's also a process. Like I'm still working too much.
But
Something you go ahead, Julia. Go ahead,
okay.
Ghost one.
Good. Yeah, what a ghost one. Um, I just keep, I think Carmen's question actually is going to be better timed for this, but I'll tell you later, maybe I would love to talk about the future of the creative trades in the face of AI,
Mm.
because so many people I know, including my son who does music, they don't like the toxic nature of the industry, but they have it in them to do that thing that's not going away. And so, and in the face of AI, maybe there's a way to do it positively that cherish like the human piece of it, right? I don't know. I mean, maybe there's a way to say AI is better at all that stuff, and we're going to focus on what humans do best over here and give humans a break because they have bodies and they have, experiences and trauma to work out. I don't know, but I just at some point want to ask you about that. But then I thought maybe that was too much at the end of this conversation, and
Well,
Carmen's
no,
question would be
I have
better.
now forgotten because
Yeah, see, because the
that's what
ghost.
happens to me because the idea comes in and it decides I'm leaving you now. It may come back to me, but
Well, I can slowly walk into that question and then we can leave
okay.
it when it comes back. Um, I like how hopeful you are in the
Thank you.
potential of AI to liberate us. And what I've noticed, so I use ChatGPT and Claude to try to understand and to not be afraid of them. And also, I think if anyone is going to comment on this or have an opinion about it, you have to have used it, right? And there are, in my experience, there are liberating forces to AI in that it can help organize your thoughts or, and free you up to do more creative work. For me, I've noticed that it creates this frenetic energy of hyperproductivity because it delivers so efficiently, so quickly, the steps that you need to do that you don't have time sitting with the grappling. You're just given the business plan, or that then you have to act on it. And it's the way it's like I'm shifting careers here, and I'm making my own business and figuring out how to coach and counsel people on the intersection of mental health and democracy and weaving the journalism into it. And I don't have a business coach right now. So Chat GPT, what do you got for me? And then it's like, "Brrr, would you like me to make a business plan? Would you like me
Yeah,
to,
I love
you
that at the end.
know,
They offer you about eight options. You want me
yeah,
to do this, or this?
yeah." And so like, if I'm anxious in the middle of the night and I'm like, I've got all this stuff to do, I'll talk to my robot and I'll be like, what do I got to do? And so at like 1 a.m., I'm like, great, I have all this done. But it's like I'm disembodied and frenetic and not living it. So, and also, God, the amount of fresh water that it takes to cool these servers. And so I'm on a fast. I feel I know enough.
Oh, you're fasting from AI, from ChatGPT. Well, yeah.
Currently,
So I've remembered now what I was going to say. You were talking about how you felt you were effective and you did think you had a positive impact on people.
yeah.
And that got me to thinking something that it's a realization for me in the last 15 years or so is that personality is a talent in and of itself. And I went to a meeting yesterday where I met someone for the first time and he was chairing the meeting and he had a compelling personality. He had a way of looking and listening to you and like just focusing on you. And I bet he's, he's not a young person. Uh, that it made an immediate impact on me.
Mm.
And I don't think you can teach that in that you can't read about it and then do it. It is taught by your own absorption of continuous lessons in your life and perhaps by a good upbringing or great mentors or whatever. But, something that I think we overlook way too much in organizations, certainly we overlook it in our politics, is sort of this importance of the talent of personality. And
Yes.
we have had this problem in the US for a while of and I'm thinking out loud here, so this could come out totally wrong,
Yeah.
but back to sort of democracy, where we have had just inappropriate personalities in government,
Hmm.
or perhaps we've had an appropriate personality followed starkly by a completely different type of personality, which is very dangerous to our democracy. That kind of created too much Sturm and Drang, too much swing of the pendulum kind of thing.
Right. Yeah.
And so anyway, I'll stop there. That's about as well developed as that thought's ever going to be.
Well, when people
So,
talk about character, they include personality without
Yes,
saying it.
yes.
And so when people have concerns about character, oftentimes what they really mean is like, does that personality actually work for this? You know?
Mm.
interesting. Does that personality actually work for us? And how do you differentiate personality from character?
I think character people are sort of um in the past the usage is like about ethics. Are they a moral person? Do they do the right thing even when no one's looking?
But see,
That kind of
morals
thing.
are a subjective concept, I think.
Oh, for sure they
I
are.
mean,
For
Hitler
sure.
Hitler had morals. I mean, we all have. I spend half my year plus in Texas, and I spend when I'm in Texas, I'm explaining the East Coast to Texas and vice versa. And when I'm on the East Coast, all my friends hate Texas politics, and they'll say, "What I hate about Texans is they don't have any principles." And I go, "Oh no, they have principles. They have very clear principles, and they act upon them, I would argue, more so than people like in Virginia do."
But
Right.
that's the whole thing is subjective. Like when people say they really respect Elon Musk's character, he's been through a lot, he has good principles, it means that they match theirs. But it also means that they approve of his personality, but they're not saying that. I think there's no objective. I mean, I don't think there's no objective measures here on the planet of anything that has to do with being a person, as far as I can tell.
So interesting. I've never thought about this difference, but like
Yeah.
he can be a man of good character, but have just a terrible personality.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. He can. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've met them in my career where they are, you know, when it's a very important issue, I have absolute confidence that they will make the decision that I think is right. How to define that. But they go around like a bull in a china shop, making unnecessary enemies and distancing potentially valuable allies for no good reason other than that they just walk around grouchy.
So do you think
Well,
that people do differentiate personality from character? That's what I'm getting. You think
I
they
Yes,
do?
think so.
I think they
Okay.
do.
So
I
I'm
think
wrong
so.
on this. Yeah.
And I also think no one's, I mean, maybe they're, just predisposed to grouchy, but what I was realizing when I was like, oh, but they can have a terrible personality, that's also subjective. And it is like taking an ecological lens to what's, you know, contributed to their personality. That personality might be a saving grace for that person in another context,
Exactly.
Right.
There's probably a very good reason
right?
why
And
that personality has developed the way they did.
It has definitely served them because they have survived. And
that,
so
that's right.
does
And
it serve does it serve the new situation? Yeah.
Right. And, I was also realizing when I was like, oh, those, but it doesn't leave a lot of room for neurodivergence either, I think, or like someone,
Yes. Yes.
right? What might be a peculiar, or why are they doing that? It's like, I don't know. Maybe we should use I statements. This
Yeah, maybe we should. In
I don't
politics,
I
wouldn't
don't
that be amazing?
I don't vibe with his personality.
Mm.
Yeah.
I don't
My experience is that I don't want to be in the same room with this person.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Um, but then also this is where like um I try to pathologize everything. And so, sometimes my therapist will be like, maybe he just sucks.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yes.
But that's an interesting question. I had an argument with my ex-husband a couple days ago about this. He is very much on the line of like some people are just bad. Like they're just like bad apples. And I'm like, no, there's always a little bit of good and they've been through a lot and they're just broken, but maybe they could be fixed. And he's like, you know what? You get to say that like Hitler was bad, you know? I
Right,
mean,
right.
right? And and I think there's something important to that sort of desire to constantly say, no, everyone can be saved. I have that. I have that desire. And maybe that's a
Yes,
problem.
you do. Yes, you do. I,
Maybe
I
that's not totally true or helpful. I don't know.
was observed correctly, I think. Yes, yes.
Yeah. I mean, for me, when I hear the word saved, I think healed, like, oh, everybody has the
Mhm.
potential to heal. And sometimes they don't, depending on the environment or, genetics or maybe, or there are variations of healing that might not meet the standard where we want to be in relationship with them. Um, yeah,
Yeah, it's tough being a human, it's a tough life. It's very trivial, I know, but
it
it
is a tough
but
life.
it is. And uh you know, it's a constant, it's extremely, I think it's extremely nuanced
Hmm.
and difficult to learn appropriately. So we're all going through these experiences. The Christian nationalists have gone through experiences. Elon Musk has gone through experiences.
Yeah, yeah,
DEI extremists have gone through experiences.
yeah.
And it seems almost impossible in real time to know that you're learning appropriately and you're growing appropriately, particularly because everything is so subjective,
Yeah,
as
and I
are the
think
goals.
like probably 90% of us
Yes.
are learning inappropriately, right?
Yeah,
And
right.
and so then I think like the key is can we create the conditions that are safe enough to admit, oh, I have more learning to do,
Exactly. Yes.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And the reason that so this is where the hope's going to come back, you guys. So
And the light's gonna go on.
the light's going to go on. No, no, it's still not going to. The reason that we could ever even dream of getting to a place where we could offer people a world in which they could recover and learn appropriately is because there's a part of us in the three of us, but also in most people, I believe, that thinks that we could do better.
Totally.
And
Yeah.
that's like the kernel of like the laughter with your friend when you're going through all this as a kid, right? That's the
Yeah.
kernel of what saves us all.
I went to a Catholic university in the district, and we had to take mandatory religion courses. I was a junior transfer, but I still had to take the courses. And Religion 101, we had to read four, I think, great essays or books about religion. One of them was Freud's, whatever that is. Another one was by this sociologist, whatever his name was. But that was my favorite book because he talked about the proofs of God, which is really a way of saying the proof that this all has meaning. And
Yeah.
and he said the fact that we laugh. He said laughter is a proof of meaning. slash God. And I've
Oh,
always carried that because I think it's a very it encourages us to continue, which I think is an objective goodness, although I'm sure someone could argue that.
that's beautiful.
I think it's, yeah.
Yeah. Well, again, I return to my official role as the timekeeper. We're at 3 o'clock, and that might have been a good place to end. So I don't know if there's
Yeah, I
anything
think,
else you want to say, Kate, uh,
Anything.
about anything. I feel like
I
I
mean,
feel like we've been like dancing on top of so fast that we never sunk anywhere, which is good, but we never sunk anywhere.
well,
Well,
we can do it to be continued.
Yes, we can, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, this is surface, but so deep. I mean, this
yeah. I think we
really,
sunk. I think we sunk.
I do too.
Oh, okay.
I think we move. Oh yeah.
We're like porpoises. We're doing this.
Yes. We
Yes.
surfaced for air.
I constantly think of myself as a porpoise.